What's more important, being a leader or being a manager? Who's more important, the leader or the manager? Think about it for a second. Who's more important, especially in our society? Who's more important, the leader or the manager? A lot of people think to themselves, well, the leader's more important because they're out front, they're creating everything. But the reality is, if you really think about what's going on, it's a trick question. It's a totally trick question. Who's more important, the leader or the manager? You know, what's more important, vision or execution, right? What's more important, where we're going to go or how we're going to get there? Well, the answer is that they're both equally important. If you have no vision, then it doesn't matter if you're going to execute because there's nothing to execute. And if you have no execution, then what's the point of having a vision? You're never going to get there. And so that's the thing to really understand, is that leadership and management are equally important. And the goal is not necessarily to create leaders and managers. The goal is to create a single person who is an excellent leader and an excellent manager. So, how can we develop a clear understanding of, well, what does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to be a manager? How do you bring those two skill sets into the same individual so that the same individual can perform both? Well, let's look at what leaders do and what managers do, right? Leaders, I love this. I love this definition. I'm just going to cut right to it. Leaders make things happen that weren't going to happen anyway, right? Leaders make something happen. It wasn't going to happen without their influence and their initiative. Managers make sure that what's already supposed to happen does in fact happen, and happen on time, and happen correctly, and happen well. They're equally important. But it's also important for us to look at the uniqueness of the leadership role, because we're going to take a little journey into leadership and get into some detail. Obviously, that's what we want to accomplish. And a leader is a unique person. Why? Because where does the leader live, right? Past, present, future. Where does a leader live? A leader lives in the future because they're out in front. They're out making things happen. Where does a manager live? Past, present, or future? Well, at least for our purposes, we're saying that a manager lives in the present. They're making sure that the leader's vision of the future happens right now. So I think that's an interesting distinction about where, sort of in time and space, where leaders live and where managers live. Now, using that, we go to another, probably even more important point, which is, what is it like to live out there in the future? What's out in the future? We don't know. The future is unknown. And so that's why a leader really needs to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Think about that. The future is uncomfortable, but the leader is out in the future. And so a leader needs to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And what does that mean, especially in business and in your context? It means being willing to deal with the things that aren't fun, that don't feel good. Being willing to have the difficult conversations you don't want to have. Being willing to call someone on the carpet and hold them accountable because we have to make progress. Now, the question, of course, is how do you skillfully hold someone accountable? How do you skillfully have a difficult conversation? How do you skillfully help someone accomplish something they couldn't do without your help? And that is what the skill set is that we're going to learn. But the point to grab right now is, I don't care about that skill set. I don't care if you've read 1,000,000 books, if you know all these techniques. It doesn't matter unless you actually want to be a leader. You have to choose that you're willing to be out there in the future, being willing to be comfortably being uncomfortable, making something happen that wasn't going to happen anyway. The point is, until you want to lead, until you're willing to go for it, it doesn't matter what you know. And once you're really willing to lead and you really want to make a difference in other people's lives, you'll learn everything else that you need to learn, and you'll develop your own skills. So that's the very first point. A leader chooses to lead. And when a person chooses to lead, now they can make something happen that wasn't going to happen without their influence. So that's step one.